Welcome back. The next thing that we're talking about, again, before we get to complex numbers, because complex numbers involve lots of properties of square roots. Okay, so one thing we need to talk about is how to deal with a fraction inside of a radical or inside of a square root. Okay, because again, if we don't know how to simplify different things in radicals, it's going to be very difficult when we introduce a complex number. Okay, so if you ever have a fraction inside of a square root, this property will hold. Okay, so it's called the quotient property of radicals, I guess. So the quotient property of radicals. Okay, so if you have a fraction or if you are dividing inside of a square root, that is the same thing as square rooting the numerator and the denominator. So you can either simplify the fraction down and then take the square root of that, or you can square root the numerator and denominator and be done with it. Okay, so we're going to be applying that to example 5, 6, and 7. And we're going to get started on example 5 right now. Let's get to it. Okay, so example 5. Again, our property says if you have a fraction inside the radical, that is the same thing as square rooting the numerator and denominator. And sometimes it's a lot more helpful and easier to do it this way because sometimes your fractions do not simplify down. Okay, and it's really difficult, you guys, to try to take the square root of like an entire fraction. So if you can just square root the top and bottom, you might as well do it. Okay, so let's get to example 5. Okay, so like looking here, I could try to simplify this down to see if I could actually square root whatever's inside my radical. Okay, now 4 over 9, well, that can't be reduced any further. So I can't really take the square root of 4 over 9. But I can take the square root of 4, and I can take the square root of 9. So this is when this quotient property of radicals will come into play and be really helpful. Okay, so this is equivalent, or this is equal to the square root, let's see here. I like to color coordinate, so. Alright, so this is equivalent to the square root of 4 over the square root of 9. Okay, so I can break it down into the numerator and the denominator being square rooted. Okay, so this will equal the square root of 4, well, what times what gives you 4? That would be a 2. So this would be, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to write this. Okay, so that would be 2 over, what's the square root of 9? What times what gives you 9? 3. Okay, so the square root of 4/9 is simply just equal to 2/3. And that's all you guys have to do. So if you can't square root your fraction, you can't simplify this down into a number that you can square root, and you are able to square root the top and bottom, or your numerator and denominator, go ahead and just square root each piece and then be done with it. Okay, let's try example 6.